Hello, everyone. My name is Fizza Afreen, and this summer I had the fantastic opportunity to work on the YSP project to design future human habitats on the moon or Mars under the guidance of Dr. Jen. The goal of this project was to conceptualize futuristic off-Earth human habitats or settlements on either the moon or Mars and to use various generative AI tools to bring the concept to life. My project is called The Future of Mars Surface Habitation. I chose Mars primarily because I wanted to imagine what human life would look like on another world that shares a similar day-night cycle as the Earth. A solar day on Mars is 24 hours and 40 minutes long. And I focused on surface habitats because I imagined the first humans on Mars to live on the surface. And so I wanted to visualize what kind of habitats would be used during the initial missions to Mars. Um, So this project was also inspired by a study called the First Mars Outpost, conducted by the Sasakawa International Center for Space Architecture during the 2001 to 2002 academic year. The purpose of the study was to propose design concepts for reaching Mars and establishing a human presence there. Two proposed concepts for surface habitation were the Mars Surface Habitat, shown on the top right image, and the Mars Surface Laboratories, shown on the bottom left here. The Mars Habs are designed to support 8-person crews for long-duration missions lasting up to 500 days. And the Mars laboratories are science laboratory modules made using inflatable structures and telescopic structures. So an inflatable structure is basically made out of lightweight and flexible materials that expands upon pressurization like a balloon to provide an enclosed livable volume space. So for this project, I designed a Martian habitat called the Adaptable Inflatable Mars Surface Habitat. And the goal of the Ames habitat design is to provide future manned Mars exploration missions with a surface habitat to enable long-term human exploration of the Martian surface, and a habitat that will be able to provide habitation on diverse landing sites and would be adaptable to various mission needs. So the three primary features of this habitat are its inflatable structure, where the astronauts live and work, a central module where I would imagine communication and commanding activities to take place, and a dome-shaped structure at the bottom, which is see-through, which is see-through and would let sunlight to pass through. So this structure could be used to do a lot of activities like growing plants or even conducting some in situ resource utilization activities over there. So when I first started using AI, my initial goal was to be able to generate the basic structure of this habitat. So the following are my initial attempts. I started off with simple prompts, and for each prompt, I would ask the AI to include an inflatable structure, and below the inflatable, there would be a central structure, and then below those two structures, there would be a dome-shaped structure that is see-through and would include entry and exit ports for the astronauts. So here is one of the resulting images from this prompt. And over here, what the AI did well is that it was able to show the inflatable on top of the dome-shaped structure, but it produced a layered inflatable shaped like a donut, and these inflatables were separated by rigid circular platforms. So now for another prompt, I wanted to ask the AI to make the inflatable structure vertical. So I included that term over there, and I also provided more details for what I wanted to see inside the inflatable structure. Over here, I also asked the AI to make the central module 1/3 the height of the inflatable structure, and I asked the AI to show plants growing inside the dome-shaped structure. So this was the resulting image, and this was also produced using image FX. What went really well here is that the inflatable structure was the largest part of the habitat, so using the term vertical here was useful. And something else that was really good here was that the AI connected the central module to another structure within the dome for perhaps better stability of the habitat. So that turned out really well. Now as I started using AI, I also wanted to be able to visualize more of the habitat interiors and create more detailed images. So I started writing more detailed prompts. Here is a sample prompt, and these prompts are structured as follows. The yellow text refers to the inflatable structure and its interiors. The blue text refers to the central module and its interiors. The green text refers to the dome-shaped structure. And the orange text refers to what I wanted to see outside the habitat and a few additional details. So here is a resulting image from that prompt, produced using Whisk. Over here, what went really well was that three distinct floors were visible inside the inflatable, showing a lot of work areas. And the AI also showed doors inside the structure, which represent an elevator system. And there was a central structure shown within the dome over here, which is how I would expect the astronauts to move from the dome and enter the inflatable. Something else that was really nice over here was that distinct paths for astronauts to walk on were included within the dome so that they do not step on the plants. And so overall, there were a lot more details that I was able to see with the previous prompt. Something that did not go so well is that there was no rigid central module connecting the inflatable to the dome. So that was essentially like skipped over here. And the astronauts were slightly, a little too large compared to the habitat. For this image on the right, I also asked Whisk to cover the dome-shaped structure with Martian regolith, as regolith can offer protection against space radiation. So over here, I just wanted to visualize what that would look like. And it turned out to be a pretty nice image. Here is another prompt that was structured the same as the one before, but over here I decided to reduce some of the details to make the prompt less wordy and see what that would produce. So this was a resulting image. And I love the complexity of this image and the number of details that were visible here. So what went really well over here is that three floors were still included in the inflatable, but the second floor was the largest part of the structure. And an interesting spiral tubular structure was also produced here. And this is where I would imagine the crew quarters to be. Other things that were good about this image were that there were a lot of entry and exit ports in the dome, and multiple windows were included in the inflatable structure for outside viewing. Another thing that was really good about this image is that the relative size between the astronauts and the habitat is ideal. This is clearly a large habitat, as we can see how small the astronauts look here. So this was really one of my favorite images that I was able to generate this summer. And as I mentioned before, this is where I would imagine the crew quarters. So I actually wanted to visualize that further through AI. And so I asked Whisk to create an image of a spiral tubular structure inside a large room inside a Mars surface habitat and provided a few additional details. And this was the resulting image. I love how realistic this image is, and I think that this could be an efficient way to use volume space to house a large number of people. These windows could also be designed to change transparency as needed. And a structure like this is something I would also imagine one that could serve to be like resting pods for astronauts, where they could take a break from work in between their shifts or just be able to do some silent work and other work in these pods. So I thought this was a really good image that I was able to generate. And for the last part of my project, I also wanted to visualize what a large human base on Mars would look like if it were built using the Ames habitats. So over here, I kept my prompt simple because I was more interested in the big picture rather than seeing the interior details of the habitat, but I still asked for all the three primary features of my habitat. And so here is one of the resulting images produced using Whisk. Over here, Whisk still produces a layered inflatable structure, which with three layers representing three floors. And I really like that it produced a very wide dome-shaped structure at the bottom. Something else I really liked about this image is the fact that there are a lot of rovers, astronauts, and equipment on the surface. So this is clearly a large base that could support multiple people on Mars. Here is another image that was a refinement to an image produced using the previous prompt. Over here, I asked Whisk to connect the surface habitats with tunnels so that the astronauts could move between the habitats without having to wear their spacesuits. And something I really liked about this image are the entry and exit ports over here. these were like short tunnels protruding from the openings, and I thought these could be designed in a manner to minimize atmosphere loss from the domes. Here is another image produced using ChatGPT, and what I liked the most about this image is that ChatGPT was able to produce all the primary features that I was trying to generate all along. So it clearly shows the inflatable structure here, a central module, and a dome-shaped structure at the bottom. So to conclude my project, I would like to talk more about why we should use generative AI for design and how it has helped me this summer. So first of all, I believe generative AI can help us quickly convey design ideas, which would be useful during the early stages of a project, as it could help us think about how feasible certain designs are and make any changes early on. Secondly, using AI tools can help us improve our innovative thinking and critiquing skills, as these tools and the produced images can help us imagine what could be possible in the future and what we need to do today to be able to get there. Lastly, content produced using generative AI can be useful for public education and outreach to inspire the next generation of scientists, futurists, and creative thinkers. Thank you all for listening, and I would like to thank Blue Marble Space and Dr. Jen for this opportunity. Please ask any questions or share any comments that you may have.
Awesome, great job. I love that you had used all these different tools as well, and didn't rely on just a single one, but you tried different tools to generate imagery. Are there any questions from the audience? You can raise your hand or type in the chat. I see Sanjoy has a question for you.
Thank you very much for this presentation. I just love how AI can really spur imagination. I was very unintentional prompt or an additional section of your prompt. We focus on like engineering constraints. Maybe AI is powerful enough to see what's more realistic versus less realistic in the construction of apps. Have you tried that?
I'm sorry, your voice was breaking while you were speaking.
I'm sorry, let me try and repeat. I was wondering if the AI could handle an additional section in your prompts that would include engineering constraints to push the AI to look at whether a hab is realistic or not in a short time frame.
So I believe that could be included within the AI, but I'm not sure if it would actually pay attention to it, because as more details are included into a prompt, it only pays attention to a few of them, and a few of them just get like ignored. So it is definitely something that could be tried, but I'm not sure if it would be able to, if it would make any difference. I'm not sure about that yet.
Thank you. Worth exploring. Great presentation.
Yeah, I kind of agree with Sanjoy. I feel like, as the tools develop, they need to be able to integrate other ideas, like, tell it to actually be realistic in how it designs for human needs and for engineering solutions, and consider where like wiring and pipes and things will go. And I think it's as a powerful tool, it could do that someday. I see we have a question from Akash as well.
Yes, hi. I really like this presentation. I was just curious about like at the very beginning, the sort of first prompt that you entered was like very basic, just like, create like a Mars habitat for me. And I'm curious as you were iterating on your prompts, if there were sort of common pitfalls or like common assumptions that the models made, or like common design elements that they would always include. Just things you'd have to like, work around that the model would just like include on its own.
Yeah, so I believe for let's say the image over here, like this spiral tubular structure was something that the AI itself produced. I did not actually describe it, but
Hmm.
I did use certain words in my prompt that may have caused it to create that. So so I believe there are similarities that I did see as I generated the images, like in terms of colors and certain designs being repeated in the images, like the kinds of like the layered inflatable that was seen in in various images. So I believe that could be something that more to do with like the limitation of the AIs at the moment, and like what the kind of data that they are using to create these images. If more information were included, then they could perhaps produce more different images.